struggle with really what does that mean. I mean, we always need to struggle with that it means to live as people of grace. Law can sometimes be seen as something that's black and white. You either do this or you do that. Choice A is good, choice A is bad. But when it comes to living in a state of grace, well, that's messier and filled with a lot more gray. There's a lot more unknown when it comes to grace. So much easier to live in the state of this being good over here and that thing over there being bad, and this choice is good and that choice is bad. And all honesty, there are certainly those instances that are plainly wrong, such as in cases of exploitation and abuse of and towards others. And there are certainly those instances that are plainly so very right, such as the instances where light triumphs darkness, where love triumphs all. But life is far more meaningful and deeper than clear rights and wrongs. Life is much more richer than categorizing things. I think that's what Paul was getting at in this epistle to the Galatians. With ushering in of Christ, it erased any hard-set dividing lines that separate us one from another, for Christ came for all. By Paul saying that any one of us is deemed righteous, not because of what one does, but because of faith in Christ, God was inviting God's children to live life filled with grace. Grace that is able to transform lives. A grace that is able to say, yes, you sin, but your sins and wrongs do not own you and define you. I wonder what would happen if we chose, like Paul urges, to live not bound by the law, but instead we chose to believe in and live in to God's grace. Now the laws that Paul was specifically talking about had to do with Jewish rites and rituals, especially surrounding the topic of circumcision and dietary restrictions. Us modern-day Gentile Christians know we're not bound by those specific laws. But I wonder what modern-day laws we continue to lord over us today. Laws that dictate our identity, telling us that if we do this, that we're good enough, if we do that, then we're not. Laws that just kind of play into our own self-worth and our identity as Christians. I'll be completely honest, I'm not quite sure what it would look like to live more fully and deeply in a state of grace. But I think that's the point. So that's precisely what is so mysterious about grace. One cannot define it because God's grace originates from God. And no one can put their finger on God and the workings of God. God's grace does not succumb to human inventions, expectations, and limitations. God's grace is something that cannot simply be grasped. Instead, God's grace simply needs to be received. Next week, we'll tackle Galatians 4. So, Bria and the whole church said,